SystemsWiki Collaborate elements. There are three types of entities that can be created within the context of a Kumu project. Elements, connections, and loops. I'm going to do a separate video for each one. You can create an element by coming to the plus sign at the bottom and selecting element, or you can simply use the shortcut key of element, and that will bring up a place for you to put a label for the element that you're creating. And if you put in 2 spaces, it will create a hard carriage return in the label. So once you're finished typing it, you just press enter, and it dropped it on top of the one that was already there because it puts it in the center because it doesn't know where else to put it. So this is element. Now, if you want to create another element, you can go back down here and select element, or you can simply press E key for a shortcut, or a much easier way is to hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, mouse over the element, click and drag off of it, and then type in the label, I can't type, another element. So I've now created 2 elements. The first one using the add element option at the bottom, and the other one by dragging off of it. Now, we'll talk about connections in the next video. This is just to talk about elements. In the context of the projects within Kumu for SystemsWiki, we have decided that we want to go ahead and differentiate different types of elements so that they can be either stocks, variables, or constants. So once you create an element, you can come over here and select a type, and currently the stocks are currently yellow. We're not differentiating between constants and variables at the moment, though we're thinking about it. This specifically makes it easy to identify those things on the map that we believe accumulate or diminish slowly over time based upon some inflow or outflow, as opposed to things that change instantaneously, such as variables or constants that don't change at all during the context of what it is that we're mapping to understand. Now, the elements, like other entities that you create, has a profile page which has a title, and you can come over here and you can edit this title, and once you're finished editing, you can hit return. It has a type. The type has to be one of these 3. If you don't actually define it, it simply defaults to look like a variable or a constant. A description that you can add. Now within, as I said, this description can be formatted with Markdown, or you can upload an image from somewhere else. There's a small image, simply the Kumu logo. Notice that it formats it in this fashion. The way that you format things in here is defined in Markdown, and presently there's a couple of variables as part of the definition, but don't worry about those at the moment. And there's an option to add tags, and we're currently using that with connections at the moment, but not for anything else. And there's also an option to add an image to the element, which I've done here for this particular one called comments, and it has a little image that I imported. If I go back to here, I could import an image for here, select a file, and I can make it look like the Insight Maker logo, which probably doesn't make too much sense in the Kumu context. So this is the way that you create elements or edit ones that already exist. And as I've repeatedly commented, if you add an element, please provide a description of it to some extent to elaborate, because more often than not, the label is insufficient to communicate to others just what it was that you meant for that particular element to mean in the context of the map that you're creating. If you look at this particular map that we've been developing, there are lots of labels on here, and if you haven't been here before, if all you had was the label, what the intent was for it to really mean is unlikely to be conveyed by just the label itself. So please spend a little time and elaborate on the definition of the label so that others have a sense of what you meant by doing it. So I will continue with comments and loops in a few moments. Bye.